Here's important new information from the Diabetes Solution Center for you, a family member, or a loved one suffering with diabetes. If you have lost your provider, or if you need a provider for diabetic supplies, you may qualify to receive your diabetic testing supplies now with little or no out-of-pocket cost, regardless of your age. All you need is Medicare or private insurance to be potentially eligible. Call the Diabetes Solution Center right now for details. Just takes a couple of minutes. Our friendly, knowledgeable agents will give you free, no-obligation information, handle all the insurance paperwork, and make sure your supplies are delivered directly to your door for free.
Call U.S. Medical Supply 24 hours a day. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. Call right now. 800-597-9323.
Hey, there's something you forgot to do. It sure is hot. Are you sweating like a dog? Wait, what? Dogs don't sweat. Oh no, you forgot to get your window tinted. Whether it's the kitchen window that sits in the sun for the hottest part of the day, or you just got new wheels, call Sharp Window Tinting in Burleson. 817-615-9379, or look them up on the web, sharpwindowtint.com.
Let's be honest. Wheelchairs are heavy, bulky, and ugly. If you carry a wheelchair in your car to take care of a loved one, you know how hard it is getting that clunky, old-style wheelchair in and out of your car. Introducing the Feather Chair Wheelchair. At 13 pounds, it's the world's lightest wheelchair. It folds in seconds and fits neatly in your trunk, backseat, or closet, so you can take it everywhere. And it's only available right here. Order yours today and get a free wheelchair case, a $50 value, yours free. The Feather Chair, the world's lightest wheelchair, is just $4.99 with easy payments as low as $16 a month. Sorry, no Medicare or insurance accepted. So call right now to order yours.
800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. That's 800-823-5826.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Angelo Rocha, or some in my family, they say Rocha, but I go with Rocha because it rhymes with mocha. Thank you for joining me this evening. Today is Sunday, and it's a different day because normally we start at 6 o'clock and we run till 7, but today we're going to actually start at 7 because it's actually probably a better time anyway. Okay, just so you know, this is Vet for Vets, a show where we kind of talk to local Johnson County veterans. To me, I just want to talk to any veterans that wants to talk and just talk about their life before their military service, their life during their military service, and life after their military service, after they've retired, or maybe they got another career going on like I did, where I'm involved with movies and television and mechanical engineering and other stuff like that. Okay, so today, my special guest is a Marine Corps veteran. He's a Purple Heart decorated veteran from Vietnam. He was the Bud Chief from the 2nd Division in Camp Lejeune. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to my buddy here, the father of Tiffany Carlen, Mr. John Carlen.
Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to be on the show, and I'm perfectly willing to share whatever.
I can't hear you, John. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. You can't hear me?
Oh, boy.
What do I
I
need to
apologize,
do?
John. I can't hear you, John. You're coming in very muted.
Okay, hold on. I'll turn it up.
Let me see if I can actually type in this little mute button here for you. Mute and
Okay.
unmute. Nothing?
Can you hear me
Oh,
now?
okay. Well, we apologize. We don't know what's going on with the audio. And let me try the volume here.
I turned the volume up here.
Oh, there you go. I don't know what I don't see. I don't touch this computer, John. I just want to let you know. And the previous people, what happens is sometimes the settings are set to the previous, radio show hosts or people that mess with the radio.
Right.
So things change. I know my guests can hear me, but people aren't able to hear you. So
Okay. Can you hear
John,
me now?
welcome to Vet for Vets. We apologize for this little incident. I didn't realize that the the computer was muted, but just thank you for joining me. I really thank you for joining me on this show, because I know I've been wanting to talk to you, because the fact that you are a Purple Heart veteran, decorated veteran. Okay, before we get started about your life before, during, and after the military service, I just want to mention to our veterans out there, our former soldiers, or even current soldiers, or anybody really listening, if you're somebody that's going through a lot of turmoil, you're going through issues involving relationships, financials, addictions, I just want to let you know that I know you might be feeling down, depressed, suicidal. And a lot of veterans, for some reason, kill themselves over the most menial things, which devastates their family. It does quite the opposite of what they thought was going to be easier for them. It actually destroys their family. So if you're one of those veterans, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to any other veteran, but there's a special number that was created, just kind of like 911. It's called 988. Okay.
Yeah.
Just call that number. And then what you do is you're going to have one of those little voicemail people, it's like, press 1 for English, press 2 for Spanish. But this one doesn't do that. What it does is just tells you if you're a veteran or somebody of a first responder, type 1. You press 1, and it's going to take you to a veteran or somebody that kind of will relate to you, somebody that can help you talk through issues. And if it works out well for you, they'll send you to the right people that'll get you the help. That's 988. Okay, please do not end your life over something so menial that could have been done. And the worst thing you can do if you're going through these issues, such as suicidal thoughts, is not talking to anybody about it. You just keep it to yourself. 1 minute you're smiling and you're happy, you're throwing your grandkids, your kids around, and next thing you know, you just end your life for no reason, not giving anybody a chance to even talk to you, to calm you down or make you feel better. So anyway, enough of this negativity. John, thank you so much for joining me. You are a handsome man. You don't mind me asking, how old are you, sir?
I am 79.
You are 79. Wow. You look good for a 79-year-old.
Well, I just turned 79 January 5th. So I guess I'm getting closer to 80. Closer to 80. I just want to second your thought there on veterans suicide. It really bothers me a lot. There's approximately 22 veterans a day that end their lives a day. Every day, people, are you listening? Be the one is the new motto. If you know a veteran and he's having psychological issues, I don't care if he's on the street, homeless, or looks like the guy next door, or is a vice president in a company or a firm. Be there for him, talk to him, get him to relate his issues and what happened to him. Because I think it's important. I know I have always tried to talk about the issues and what happened in Vietnam and things like that. I don't go around shouting it, but I'm perfectly willing to talk about it to people because I think it's good to talk it out.
Thank you, John. So I got a question. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Cumberland County, Illinois, a small town of Greenup, and Toledo. I lived in both of those little towns. There were both around 1,000 people in each one, and went to the Consolidated High School where I wound up co-captaining the basketball team.
Oh, wow.
and played baseball and cross country and track, all that stuff, you know. And so I was an athlete. I eventually got married when I was like, what, 19, I think.
Oh, that
To
wasn't
a,
that very long ago. That was just a couple years ago.
oh, it was 2 or 3 years ago. But anyway, I got married and to Kay and a classmate, and went to work for her father and the broom factory. And he had me learning everything in the factory, and because he had a form of cancer and he was worried about he lived another 20 years, by the way, maybe 25. He lived a long time, but he was concerned about his family. And so, but eventually Kay and I broke up, and I wound up, I was going to college at the time at Eastern Illinois University. I had, actually, that's where Tony Romo eventually went years later. So, but I was there for 2 years. And I guess when I got a draft notice from the Army, and I just went and enlisted in the Marine Corps. So I felt bad. There were so many people going to Vietnam, and the college people, I could have got a college deferment, or I could have got probably, if we'd stayed married, I could have got a marriage deferment. But I decided to go to Vietnam. I kind of felt obligated. I didn't think it was fair for people going to college to skip out on it. And I joined the Marine Corps and spent I spent only 8 weeks in training, and then
That's it. That's all they gave you was 8 weeks.
in boot camp. Yeah, in San Diego. I was on the West Coast because I went through the induction center in St. Louis. Everybody from Illinois West went to St. Louis, and Indiana and East, everyone went through Parris Island in the Marine Corps. So I wound up in San Diego, going to boot camp for 8 weeks. And then they gave us 4 weeks leave, but then I came back and went to infantry training regiment at Camp Pendleton for 4 weeks. Okay. And I got to march in a parade. They broke out all the World War II rifles, and we had to re-blue the rifles and re-linseed the stocks, and
yeah,
they were just beautiful by the time we got done. But we got to march in front of all of the Medal of Honor winners in World War II, including Audie Murphy.
Oh, nice. That's actually one of the heroes I looked up to when I was in the Army.
Oh my God, I believe you.
Yeah, To Hell and Back was one of the best films when I was young that I remember seeing. That movie just absolutely motivated me to want to. That was one of the films that motivated me to join the military when I was younger. When I was
probably me too. My dad was in the Navy, but he never really he lied about his age. He got in at 17.
Well, Audie Murphy did the same thing about his height, because he was a short. He failed the height status, the affirmative BS they had back in the day. You had to be a certain height, and Audie Murphy cheated by wearing shoes that were just a little bit more. So he just barely missed. He just barely got in there in the military and did some of the most incredible things that any human being has ever done. So it's great that you got to meet him. That would have been great. It was
a fantastic experience. They made us march down the streets. There were all those Vietnam protesters going on at the time. And hippies. So when we marched, they made us march with fixed bayonets. The outer rows had the bayonets facing outward, and the front row, of course, everybody else was facing forward. Nobody bothered us.
Good.
It was kind of fun in a way.
It's a little intimidating when you see all those bayonets on the end of the rifles coming at you.
Exactly. Nobody did anything, and it was wonderful because nobody did anything. My God, I would have hated to get into a thing where we had to stab some American citizen. That would have been bad news. But anyway, that was then off to Vietnam and
Before we get on to Vietnam, John, I just want to,
sure.
because I usually like to save the second half for the action, the moments, the,
Sure.
the sadness, the happiness, the funniest things that can happen overseas. But I want to talk about your life before on this first half. So, what kind of parents did you have? Did you have good parents, strict parents?
I had good parents, but they were strict. I mean, my whole family, there were 7 of us in our family. My dad, Carlen, and my mother, who was Catherine Dunn. Mom came from the Dunn family, as I said, and she and her 2 sisters, Rosie and Gloria, they all, and their mother and father, all sang in the Dunn Trio. It was called the Dunn Trio. They sang all the way through country and western, down through from Illinois down through Texas and Arkansas, and all into Arizona. And so I had that musical background growing up. I mean, there was always singing in my grandfather's house, and there were always, he played the violin and grandma could play the bass fiddle, but they did have an organ in their house by the time I was growing up. And so I grew up with that music. I mean, just wonderful music my whole life. And church, I mean, we went to church every day. Sunday, we went Sunday morning, we went Sunday night, we went Wednesday night for prayer meeting. We went to, revivals every summer. So
It keeps you. I think personally, I think music, church keeps you sane, keeps your mindset in a good place, and it makes you care about people. That's one thing I've always
exactly.
been growing up in church is just your care for other people, because people that
Mhm.
typically don't go to church tend to not really care for people, which is odd. But people like yourself and people that grow up in the church love music. They love to sing. I can't sing for nothing. If it was to save somebody's life, that person would die. If I played a musical instrument, that person would die if it was a bet. So, do you play any instruments, John?
No, I don't play any instruments. I started out playing the clarinet in grade school, but then I just never carried through with it. No, but I sing in a choir, and I've sang in churches all my life,
Wow,
solos and choir. I'm still singing in the choir. So down here in Louisiana,
that's good. Where at in Louisiana do you live right now?
Gonzales, it's just off of Route 10. We just live a few miles south of Route 10.
Oh, that's so it's about 4.5 hours from Fort Worth, isn't it? About 4.5, maybe.
Maybe no. Actually, it's 7.5.
Oh,
We are. I'm 5.5 from Houston, but it's driving to Houston is a nightmare. But if you
it is.
go up, yeah, take 10, and then you go up. I think it's 49 or 59 up through Louisiana, Shreveport, and you go west on 20. It's just straight west on 20 after that, all the way to Burleson.
Yeah, that's where your one of your daughters lives, who just happens to own this radio station, Joko Community Radio. So, and I
Oh,
guess
I didn't.
that's probably and that's where Tiffany, I guess since she owns this radio station, the Joko Community Radio, I I guess from what I knew about her before I actually got to know her was the fact that she was a singer, and now it makes sense to where she has her singing background. Maybe it's something to do with you and your ability to sing.
It's a gift from my grandmother or my mother, Catherine and Katie Bell, as she was known, and Katie, my mom. She sang with the Dunn Trio, of course, and then they were singing. She heard me singing in church all my life, and I did sing in a couple of local stage things when I was younger. So Tiffany grew up just playing the piano by ear, and just music always stuck with her. And she did create some albums and some songs lately. She did a wonderful job with that. I'm surprised she hasn't continued, but I guess she's just got so much going on. She raised 3 children, and
She has
I
a
have
lot on.
another. She has a lot on her plate. Yeah, She does. She's busy, busy, busy. And I have another daughter there too, Tamara. She's a local councilman.
Yeah, Tiffany said that you have 5 girls and 2 boys.
That's correct.
Oh my goodness.
Although I have another boy now. I've got finished raising him as another stepson. So
hey, not stepson is a son in my book because I have the
exactly. So I've got three. I have 3 boys now. So you have to say that.
Yeah, I told my stepdaughter, I have a stepdaughter and a stepson, but I call them my son and my daughter. And I tell my stepdaughter,
Exactly.
who lives with me, and I tell her, anybody can be a father, but a real person is the dad, or a real person is a mom. So, I'm glad.
That's a good way to put it.
I'm glad you took up the mantle, to raise somebody as your own son. Even if they're not your true blood. I always respect people that do that. Same with people that adopt, people that take in children that are not theirs and then raise it as their own. I think that's probably one of the greatest things you can do for any child. So,
that's true. They're my boys. I think of them as my sons. So
that's good. So you want to tell me, so you said you volunteered to go into the military, even though the draft, you could have deferred, but what was the main reason you chose to actually go? Because you said you felt obligated. And what do you mean by obligated?
Well, actually, I don't know if you remember much about Vietnam, but during that time, there was a SEATO treaty, Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, which included the United States and Vietnam and Thailand, Cambodia, Japan, probably South Korea. So all of that was part of that, and I just felt obligated to go and defend the treaty.
Because
my family, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I've met Vietnam vets that if they would have had the chance to defer, they said they would have deferred because of what they went through. But at the same time, there are also some that said they would never change what they've been through because it made them who they are today. And they end up being stronger. They ended up being more mindful of other people because of the fact of what they went through. So
I think that's true. I think I have been around, well, quite a few of them, and in the VA, and of course in the VFW and the American Legion. I've been around people who are struggling, and I've been around people who are ebullient and full of confidence. As a matter of fact, there was an article in the Bergen Record after I got out of the Marine Corps and got married again. I wound up in New Jersey, and there was an article in the Bergen Record. It was back in the 80s. I tried to find it in the last few days. I have to get a hold of them on the phone, by another Vietnam vet. And he did all these studies and found that Vietnam veterans on the whole now, did way better in universities, had more degrees, did better in business, more of them owned their homes than the people who refused to go.
I can see that.
So I just think that as something, because all I saw for so many years, it aggravated me, as it was Vietnam veteran on top of a water tower shooting up people. And maybe it happened 3 or 4 or 5 times doing some crazy stuff, but it seemed like we got blamed for everything. And it really made me angry. And because people don't know the facts.
It's what's happening now, John. It's exactly what's happening now. You have those bad apples, those select few. There are bad people. Okay, every single craft, every single trade, every single job, every single location always has those percentage of people that are not good people. And, I hate to say it, but it's the truth. So I call it that. This is kind of somewhat of a joke. It's not a joke, but it's also a joke. So you have about 90% of the people out there in most trades are good people. So 90% of the police officers are good people. They're good law-abiding people that just want to follow the rules. And then you have the 10% that are bad. Then you have 90% of nurses. 90% of them are good. 10% of them are bad. You got teachers. 90% of them are good. 10% are bad. And then you have lawyers. 10% are good. 90% are bad.
I knew you were going to say that. But I have a son-in-law who's an attorney, and he's a good
It's
guy.
a joke. It's a joke. But the whole point and what I'm trying to get at is the fact that most people, based on one incident, they put everybody in that pool. There's one rotten apple on that tree, and everybody thinks, some people, usually it's mostly leftists, mostly socialists, mostly people that are easily offended. I call them the snowflakes, the super snowflakes.
Snowflakes. Yeah.
Yes, just because that one bad apple is on that tree, they think the whole tree is rotten. When it's just that one rotten apple. It's just that one rotten apple. If they can come into their own mindset to think, oh my gosh, it's just that bad apple, I think the world would be in a better place. But they pull all the soldiers into one of these trees, these rotten apple trees. They did that in Vietnam. These hippies thought, okay, so one man killed a family of 4, okay? He goes into a hut, he kills all family 4.
Mm-hmm.
It gets on the news somehow. And all of a sudden, 5 months later, it's all over the news, and all the soldiers are being blamed for killing children and families when it's just that one man. Oh my goodness.
Well, unfortunately, there are a lot of leftists in this country who want to turn it into a socialist communist nation, which literally do not understand.
I don't understand.
They have not. It's amazing to me, isn't it? I mean, these people do not understand what will happen to them, because if this country ever goes like that, it's all over. And people will be dying right and left. They just have no idea.
They have zero.
Go overseas.
It infuriates me. I'm with you on this 100%. If you and I were to disagree on 99% of everything we were talking about today, the one thing I would agree with you on is that people that think socialism works are absolutely idiotic. They're idiotic.
It does not work. It does not work.
It has never worked. It will never work in the history of mankind. But here's the thing. Every single one of them that I know always says, oh, maybe this time it'll work. Maybe this time it'll work. No.
This time it'll work.
The people in Venezuela, they fell for that BS. They fell for it. And now they're all hungry.
Oh, yeah.
They're eating their pets. They're out on the street begging. There's robberies, high crime. But the government officials are all thriving. They're all living in mansions because they succeeded in pushing their socialist agenda, and they won. And they're trying to push that here, these socialists. But that's for another story, this socialism stuff. So you grew up in Illinois. You moved to New Jersey. I'm guessing Fort Dix?
No. I moved to New Jersey after I got out of Vietnam.
Oh, okay. I thought you were stationed.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I was not stationed in New Jersey. But after Vietnam, I was stationed at Camp Lejeune, and they picked me up. This is kind of funny because I reported in after taking 40 days leave after I got back from Vietnam, and 2 days later they called me over to division headquarters. Well, heck, I was an 0311, a grunt, a rifleman, a radio man, whatever they used me for in Vietnam. But they called me over there and said, we see you had 2 years of college already in accounting. I said, yes. Okay, would you like to work in the budget division? All right, great. I'm thinking, great, I'll get out of the ground pounder stuff.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so I worked in that office for 1 year, and then I became the division budget chief. Was supposed to be an officer, but they didn't have anybody with my background. So I became budget chief, and we did the budget. Man, that thing was like twice a year. We had to submit that to FMF Land Headquarters in Norfolk, and the budget was about 320 pages. So,
oh my goodness,
it was funny the way we would collate it. We didn't have all those fancy machines like they have later on in life, but we would put the 320 pages in the cafeteria, and we had a bunch of Marines line up. They would go down that pack, picking up a page, picking up a page, picking up a page.
Hey, John, I'm sorry, John. I'm gonna have to cut you short. We're gonna have to continue that story. We're gonna take a little break.
Okay.
Mandatory break. Thanks, John.
Wilfred Brimley for Loafing Dog.
I'll be right back.
Brimley for Loafing. You know, when I get the hankering for a hot dog, I go to Cleveland, Texas. Just a couple blocks off the square, they got Loafing Dog. They got the Neely Dog, the Mary Sunshine Dog, the Casey Dog, and the Shirley Dog. Why, they even got the Pacer Dog, the Brooklyn Dog, and the Jim Dog. Can't forget the Shane Dog, or the Joy Dog, and the Monty Dog. I like that fool. The Nakia Dog and the Braxton Dog round things off. Why, they even got a kids menu too.
Loafing Dog, 208 East Chambers Street, Cleveland, Texas. Lunch, catering, or takeout, plus outdoor seating. Phone number is 817-556-1040.
This is Wilford Brimley. And don't forget, Loafing Dog won't give you diabetes.
Out-of-date carpet giving you the blues? Tired of your old dingy and broken tile? Let my friends at the Floor Store in Cleveland, Texas give your home the makeover it deserves. This is Old Taco Joe coming to you for the Floor Store. Whether it's carpet, tile, wood flooring, or real wood laminate, the Floor Store can cover all of your flooring needs. Located at 405 West Henderson Street in Cleveland, Texas, owner Brent Harris can help. Shower tile, tub surrounds, even backsplashes. Give them a call today at 817-641-9444. The Floor Store, they've got you covered.
Hey, there's something you forgot to do. It sure is hot. Are you sweating like a dog? Wait, what? Dogs don't sweat. Oh no, you forgot to get your window tinted. Whether it's the kitchen window that sits in the sun for the hottest part of the day, or you just got new wheels, call Sharp Window Tinting in Burleson. 817-615-9379, or look them up on the web, sharpwindowtint.com.
Doom, 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 doom. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Vet for Vets. My name is Angelo Rocha, and I am here with my special guest, John Carlen. He is a Purple Heart decorated veteran. We're hoping in this second half of our radio show, he'll talk to us about the story of how he got and obtained that very, very rare medal that a lot of people don't really want, but they just kind of get involved with things, and eventually they get in incidents where they do get the Purple Heart. So before we continue on, I want to mention that Joco Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and it is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. That's tuneinjoco.com. It's the place to find all the ways to listen and watch, and the station app is also available for free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store. Check out our lineup and more at jococommunityradio.com. This episode and more are brought to you by Next Level Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844-TEX-HAIL. That's 844-839-4245. Be sure to dress your arms and more at thetiffy.com. That's THETIFFIE.com. If you're looking for a gift for your lady, or gentlemen, if you're looking for a little good discounts and deals on stuff for your wife, that is the place to go. It's Tiffany's own store. And speaking of Tiffany, I am here talking to her father, the man who birthed the legend. Well, he didn't do it. Her mother did, but you kind of get what I'm saying. John, thank you for joining me on this second half. So you said you had 5 daughters and 2 sons. Tell me about your kids, please.
Well, when I was at Camp Lejeune, I married Jane. She had been divorced, and I married her. She had 2 sons, Richard and John, and I raised them from the age of 2 years old and 6 months old. So they became my boys.
Yeah, that's
and yeah, they were like, just like my own sons, really. And then there's Tamara, Tiffany, Trista, Tara, and I had from my daughters with Jane, and from that previous marriage when I was 19, I have a daughter named Shanna. So they're all doing well. The other 4, I'm trying to think. besides Tiffany, the other four all have college degrees, all the girls. Or Trista doesn't have hers yet. She's up in Bemidji, Minnesota, fighting the snow and the cold. But she's finishing her, I think she'll be finishing her degree in April. She's had to raise 3 children, and Tiffany had 3, and Tamara has 2, and Tara has 3, and Richard has 2, Johnny has 1, and Shanna doesn't have any children. So I've got 14 grandchildren, I think, if I added it up right.
So you have a whole platoon.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you're the commander. It's pretty amazing how life happens, isn't it? You have yourself a bunch of children, and they have their children of their children. Oh my gosh. How would you say you were growing up being their father? Were you tough and strict like your parents were? Or were you just kind of a soulful spirit where you were always singing and playing music?
Well, I said my parents were strict. I'll tell you a story about that real quick.
Sure.
My dad always told us never to touch his tools without permission. So I think one day I was probably 8. My brother Danny was 5 or 6. I'm not sure. I remember, but we went around. We lived just adjacent to my grandfather's farm. You jumped over the fence, ran 150 yards, and there you were. So we collected a bunch of old boards, threw them in the wagon, and took Dad's tools and went down and into the woods down by a creek and had this perfect tree to build a tree house in out over the water. So we built this tree house out there at our age, but and it was just room for 2 of us, but it was pretty neat.
That's cool.
But then we came back. So as we came out of the woods, pulling the wagon, we saw Dad's car. And I said, well, we're going to get it. So we stuffed our pants with leaves. So when we got whooped, it wouldn't hurt so bad. So we get up to the house, and Dad says, he sees the tools in the wagon. He goes, okay, boys, go in the back, because he had a razor strap that hung on the back wall.
Nice.
Outside the house. And he said, you boys wait here. So he comes back out in a minute, and he gets a razor strap, and he said, I told you what would happen. So he starts whooping us, and the leaves are flying, dust flying everywhere out of our pants. And then he says, you boys wait here. And he went into the house. Now, we had to stand right there. And I didn't know until like 20 years later, my mother said, oh, you want to know what happened? He came in the house and laid on the floor and laughed. So my dad thought it was hilarious, but he came back out and said, drop your pants. And then we got it on the bare bottoms, and we deserved it. I mean, Dad was not vicious. We only had like 2 or 3 whacks, I forget, but it stung like the dickens, man.
Yeah, I know.
But Mom, if Dad was gone and we did something, Mom would say, okay, go down to the willow tree and cut me a good switch.
Oh,
and then she'd switch her legs. And man, she'd raise some welch,
Oh
but
gosh.
you know what?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
It is funny, because a lot of people would say, oh my God, that's horrible. You got spanked as a child? Yes, I did.
Yes, that's when you learn respect. Don't touch
You
people's
learn
toes.
respect. You learn respect.
Yeah.
You learn respect. And if you goofed off in school, you get it again from the principal. So
Absolutely.
they don't do that today, but they should, really.
Because what happens is those kids that were severely abused when they were younger, there's nothing wrong with spanking your kids or punishing your kid, but you have these people that overdid it. They would send their kids to the hospital. And what happens is those kids that were sent to the hospital become the school teachers. They become the police officers. They become all the people that arrest all their parents who are just being strict on their kids.
Exactly.
And now we have a bunch of uptight, privileged, entitled brats who can't even take a spanking without calling the police.
That's the way it is today.
Unbelievable. That is a fantastic story.
But anyway, when I I don't know if you want to talk about Vietnam or what.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So you hit the boots to the ground in Vietnam. What's the first thing that you smell? Do you remember?
First thing, first thing I smelled was actually when I got off the plane, my boots hit the ground, and I felt this oppressive humidity, and it just smelled like rotten vegetation and buffalo manure. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, actually, South Korea smells like that.
Yeah, I suppose it does.
Yeah,
because in the rice paddies, I mean, they throw a lot of manure in there. I can tell you that.
Yeah. So you do you remember the first time you went into theater? Like, do you remember hearing gunshots? Do you remember hearing mortars? Do you remember getting into any type of action before you got your Purple Heart?
Oh yeah, well, there was I don't know what they called him, a Jolly Roger, one of those giant helicopter that did giant airlifts. I could lift a tank.
Oh, you're talking about the Chinook?
No, not the Chinook, but it looked like a mosquito.
Oh, I
but
know yeah.
They were heavy lift. I mean, they could lift a tank.
Oh, wow. No, I don't.
Or a piece of heavy equipment and move it. Well, they had them in Vietnam. Well, it got shot down, and man, they scrambled us out in helicopters. This is my first live fire, coming into a landing zone. And we hit this landing zone. This guy is screaming at us to get out of the chopper. We run out, and there's bullets flying, and they're directing you where to go. We hit the deck. So we got this helicopter surrounded because it's worth a lot of money. So we got the helicopter surrounded, and we're shooting at the enemy. I actually saw some of them running, and they're shooting at us. And it was a hot LZ, they call it. You know what that is?
Yes.
You know, and that's the first one. And you always wonder how you're going to do in combat. You know, I think that is something that probably bothers everybody, or at least you think about it. But I did okay, and I went, did my job. I hit the deck, got behind some fallen trees, and started shooting back. I mean, it's I actually don't know if I hit anybody or not. Half the people, you couldn't see them. They're always in the jungle, it seemed like, except for a couple of people we saw. And yeah, that's the first time. But we were out there for around probably 7-8 days till they got it repaired. We ran a lot of patrols, and then that's where I saw my first Marine die. They were on a night ambush, and they were coming back. I could see them. I mean, they were coming back around the trail, and then Marsh. I mean, I can't think of his last name. It was probably Marshall. Why we called him Marsh, but his name's on the wall in Washington D.C. on the wall where all the Vietnam veterans are, the memorial.
Yeah, memorial wall. Yep.
Yep. So he was stepped on a booby trap, and you could see the explosion. I saw him go up in the air a little bit. He came back to the ground, and I saw Chris Dawson, who was our corpsman, Navy corpsman, working on him. A helicopter, medevac chopper came and hovered in the middle of the rice paddy, didn't go near them, and evidently Chris did not see the bleed coming out of that main artery in the leg. It was hidden because he laying down.
Yeah,
he took the femoral artery. Yeah, so he took care of all of the rest of the wounds, but he just didn't see that one until it was too late. And the guy, he just bled out in about.
You're actually giving me flashback. You're giving me flashbacks to. I literally held one of the soldiers in Iraq. I held his hand while he was bleeding out. The blood was just too much, and I felt his hand. He was grabbing my hand, and his hand slowly stopped moving to the point where we just knew, you know. And it touched it, and That's just one of the things that people don't realize that us veterans go through. I mean, yes, you're a little bit farther back than me, slightly, because I'm 43 years old, so I'm only a couple decades off. But you and I
It's
pretty much have gone through the same thing, other than new modern equipment and new modern technology.
it's not that different. I mean, it was a few months later, we were, I was stationed at Chulai Air Base outside the base. So there was, I don't know, Hill 45, Hill 69, and Hill 35, 69 meters high. That's how they number the hills. And 35, that platoon, they were out on an op. They came back, and we always had the outpost hills. So around the three major hills, where there was a battalion on each hill, then they always had a company or a platoon was sent out, and they were on the outpost. I've been on some of those too. I was out there for a while, but not on this one. Off of Hill 35, there was an outpost out there about, a mile and a half maybe, and platoon size. And when they came back off the op, and they were mixed with, not ARVN troops, but they were National Guard troops from Vietnam. They weren't, my mind is not working. I can't think of what they called them, but they weren't ARVN, but they were the National Guard. They weren't really very good troops, and a lot of them were VC. So they had stayed on that hill while the Marines left. Well, when they came back, it was set up, it was a trap. And the VC had fired a rocket into the comm bunker and took out the radios. And then they attacked and fought the Marines. The machine gunner stood up in the middle of the thing and probably saved everybody's life, the ones that survived, because 17 or 19 of the Marines were killed because the National Guard from Vietnam was shooting at them too. So the Marines were getting it from all sides. The machine gunner got up and saved those who lived, but we ran. They wouldn't let us go out there. They held us back, and then finally about 5:30 at first, you could just see the dawn coming, and we ran all the way out there. And God, they were burned so bad. Most of them that were dead. It was a horrible. Those things you see, like you saw in Iraq, you see so many gruesome things, but you put it out of your mind and you go on and do your job. They sent us running on down the trail, chasing the VC. And you're able, I don't know, it's almost like compartmentalizing, like this isn't real.
It is. That's exactly what I did. It's exactly what I did.
It's not real. You're in a movie.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And the same thing, then we went on Operation DeSoto. We were gone. And the funny thing is, we moved out so fast for DeSoto, which was down in Quang Ngai province, south of Chulai. I think it was south of Chulai. Yeah, I think it was. So they sent us down there, Operation DeSoto. We had a whole battalion down there. They set up this base camp. They had trailers there for doctors. They had trailers for dentists. We left so fast out of our base camp, jumped on choppers and went. I forgot my toothbrush. This is the funny thing. So I went and knocked up on the dental trailer door. It's like this arm reached out and pulled me in. I wound up getting all my wisdom teeth pulled by a Navy doctor. When
I'm out in theater, oh my gosh, that's the worst.
And I'm in combat, right? So the next day, I wound up getting wounded because they sent us out on patrol around this huge hill we were on down in Quang Ngai province. And then we started getting fire. So Sergeant Hearn was the platoon commander. He was E5, and I was a E3 at the time, Lance Corporal. So I had the radio because the radio man had been killed. So here I am now, radio man, And he says, let's go to the front of the column. So we ran all the way to the front, the sniper shooting at us all the way up there. And just as we got to the front of the column, he got shot and I got shot. He got shot in this right through his arm. And I got hit in the wrist, but it wasn't real bad, just a lot of blood everywhere. And Corpsman passed me up, and I never left duty, but they had to send Sergeant Hearn out because he was wound up losing about a fifth of his muscle. But he came back though. He was back in like 6 weeks.
Oh, that's crazy.
And then, so what happened after that? Not too long after that, I was getting bored. We weren't seeing any action. And it's not that they asked for volunteers to go to a CAC unit, Combined Action Company. Little did I know, and that was another case where I didn't realize I was going out into the field on a hill with 20 Marines and about 20 popular forces. That's what they were called. And might have been 25 of us on this hill. You're just in the boonies, up by Tam Key. So we're down by Tam Key, or up by Tam Key now, further north. And in the transition barracks, in between there and being sent up there, I was just sitting there and I saw this. I wrote this story about it called A Flash of Gold. I saw the guy across from me. He was opening a letter he had from home, and I saw a gold thing falling onto his cot. And immediately I knew what it was. I knew it was a wedding ring. And a few seconds later, he was reading the letter. He got up, dropped the letter, picked up his .45 caliber, and walked out of the tent. And I said, "Oh my God!" So I walked right after him. Sat outside, he's sitting there playing with this pistol. And I said, "Whatever you're thinking of doing is not worth it." And he said, "Shut up, it's none of your business," and pointed the .45 at me. "If you don't shut up, I'm going to shoot you." So I don't know what possessed me, but I guess being raised in the church, I just started softly talking to him and telling him about how I wound up in the Marine Corps, my wife left me and things like that, and telling him that he would be okay, that God would bless him and bring him to a point where he could absorb this and go on with his life. And then after about 30 minutes of speaking with each other, he eventually handed me his .45 pistol. I breathed a sigh of relief, went back in the tent, we both did, and I had his weapon, and then the next morning he said, he thanked me. I don't even remember his name. He thanked me, and he said, "I need my .45 where I'm going, so could you give it back to me?" And I said, "Sure, but just don't use it on yourself." So that was the transition story that happened while I was there. Really, but
yeah, those Dear John letters are the worst. Yeah, I've seen it myself.
I can tell you that in the 1st Marine Division, when I was with my company, 135 Mike, I think there were like 21 of us in that company that were married, and only 3 made it out of Vietnam without being divorced. So it was a tough thing.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, young people get married, and then the guy goes off to war, and
yeah, I understand.
I can't blame all of the wives for that. I mean,
I understand too. I mean, they're lonely. They're they don't have their man.
Mm-hmm.
So
they do.
So, John, most of my radio shows that I do, I usually ask the veteran one question and see. I want to see what your response is. So my question for you is: if you had a child or a young teenager sitting across from you anywhere, it doesn't matter, restaurant right now, and he wanted to know, in your words, what it means to be a veteran and why it's important to teach about veterans, what would you say to that person?
Today, it's a different climate. I have thought about this a lot. I think that overriding even some of the newer thoughts that I've had about this country and where it's headed, I still think that America is the best nation possibly that's ever been, and the freest nation, even though I think we're ranked number 17th now in terms of freedom. There are 16 countries ahead of us that have more freedom than we do, which I find disturbing.
Me too.
I find that extremely disturbing. There's a national organization that ranks these things. But I would say to a young man, if you love this nation and you're secure with facing death, because you very well may die, if you're secure with that, and you have the backing of your family, and you understand what you're getting into, it is a great honor to serve your nation. It is a great honor to serve your nation. I think recently our nation has, and even going back to Vietnam, I think our country did not back the veterans like they should have backed the veterans. In combat especially, I think they could have done way better. I think the politicians got too involved with it. So instead of letting the generals run the show. So I can only say, I still think it would be an honor to serve. And I think everybody should be somewhat involved in doing that. I think, I wish they would go back to the draft and everybody could serve 2 years, at least 2 years, serving your nation. I think it would serve our youth well, don't you?
I agree completely. I was going to ask you, do you think that the women should be enrolled at this time around?
I do. I mean, Israel protects its nation quite, and the women serve in combat over there. I think if they want to serve in combat, that's fine. If they really want to do that and they're strong enough to do it, a lot of them are not physically able, really, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
To serve in combat roles. They're just not physically able to do that, but there are a lot of women who are.
John, well, we're getting near the end of our interview. It was great talking to you. I just wish this was a little bit longer, so that way you can tell us a couple more stories. Do you have any parting notes? You got about 20 seconds to tell people out there.
Well, I just want everybody to know that I'm proud of my service. I'm proud of all the veterans. And after that, Iraq, Gulf 1, Gulf 2, Afghanistan, all you guys, hey, I give everybody a lot of credit, and God bless this nation.
Amen. Thank you for joining me. My name is Angelo Rocha. My guest was John Carlen. And have yourself a good night, everyone.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
If you are trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much until it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into